Welcome to the 7th episode of the ABC Reading Challenge. I'm Ruby Jean, and I like to read. We're going to be starting with book N today. Let's start with the runner-up. Unfortunately, today we will not be reading Nothing Like the Movies. I really wanted to get my hands on this book, but unfortunately I could not get it from the library in time, and I just have had no time to go to Barnes & Noble's recently. We will have to go soon and do like a whole bookish haul, but for right now, we're stuck with the library books. I will read this one as soon as it's available to me, but unfortunately, it's just not ready in time. What is ready, however, is The No-Show by Bethany O'Leary. I believe this is a rom-com that takes place around Valentine's Day and a guy who stands up multiple dates. That's all I really know. That could also be a very inaccurate description of what this book is. I have been severely disappointed by a ton of the modern rom-coms that I've read recently, so I really hope this one changes my mind. At least I'm switching up authors. I do not believe I've read a Beth O'Leary book before. Maybe I'll like her writing style. I just clocked out of work. It is 5 p.m. and I might have plans at 7. I haven't decided yet, so let's just start this book.
I do not like anybody here, so why do I care? I tell myself that I just need to have someone right beside.
I got a good chunk of reading in last night before going to a coffee shop with some friends, where I also did a little bit more reading before trivia night. It was my first ever time doing trivia, and we lost really badly, but it was still pretty fun. Then this morning, I did clock into work. It is Friday, so I was able to knock stuff out till 5 p.m. I did do a little bit of reading on my lunch, but we're officially after hours. It is officially the weekend, and I'm ready to keep reading. I did hop on camera for a second and forgot that I had left a bunch of dry shampoo on my head to soak in, and you can still technically kind of see it, but we're just going to ignore that. I am just about 50% of the way through The No-Show, and I have a lot of thoughts. Here is your spoiler-free pitch, if you will. This book is in 3 different POVs of 3 different women. They all fit like a stereotype, like almost comedically, but I also do think in this case, I kind of prefer it because it could get really confusing if these 3 girls were not drastically different. You have the boss babe life coach, the timid and introverted reader, and then you have the super tomboy chica. All the girls are great. Some I love more than others, but that's not what this is about. This is about what these 3 girls have in common. The boss babe life coach is in a casual relationship. Introverted girl is in sort of a friends to lovers slow burn kind of vibe. And then the 3rd girl, our tomboy, who, okay, yeah, she's my favorite in case you couldn't tell, but she is in a committed relationship with her boyfriend. What they all have in common, you might ask? The 3 men that they are all in this romantic or semi-romantic relationship with are all the same man. They don't know that he is all the same man. We're finally getting to a point in the book where the girls are kind of starting to figure it out. Now, here's what's crazy to me. I think this man is trash. Like, I'm reading this book and I'm like, none of these 3 girls deserve this. I mean, no one deserves being lied to and cheated on, obviously. This guy is just the absolute worst. None of these girls deserve it. And would you believe that I have, by every single person that has recommended this book, has told me that in the end, you won't be mad at the guy. Can't even fathom a plot line or a plot twist that can get me to that conclusion. This man is slimy. He is crusty. He is the definition of a red flag. He's also one of those guys that's like perfect on paper, but because you know the backstory, you're like, it makes it so much worse. I do not foresee any sort of heart change in me towards this man. I'd be very interested to see if the author could do that. But you know what? It's Friday. I clocked out of work. I just watched one of my videos go live at 5 p.m. on a Friday because that's when I post videos. And I've got nothing left to do tonight but to read. We're gonna chill here, we're gonna eat some dinner, and we are gonna finish this book, and I'll give spoiler-free final reviews.
Nights talking the pixels, I don't go out, don't intermix with the crowd, and I wonder why I'm sitting all alone, staring at my phone, or I just want a connection.
I fear I spoke too soon. Hear me out. You just need to read the book. I can't spoil it. Let me just say, shortly after we spoke. There was a hint towards one of the plot twists and I predicted it. So when it came, I was like, okay, does it explain some things? Yeah. Does it justify any actions? Absolutely not. But then I kept reading and there was a second plot twist that totally threw me off my rocker. And when I tell you, it entirely changed my mind about everything that happened in this book. And truly, I think that is a skill for an author to be able to do that. Wow, let's pull up the chart, I guess. The no-show. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm very surprised about this. It's definitely not a 5-star. It definitely didn't like rock my world or change my life. That was an amazing book. That was really good writing. It was fast-paced. Somehow there were characters in the book that I didn't like, but I was still rooting for them because the author wanted me to. I also think that is a skill. Honestly, I cannot say enough positive things about this book, but obviously I'm not gonna spoil anything because this is a spoiler-free video. Wow, I'm gonna be thinking about that book for a little bit. That was really good. All right, now on to book O, and let's just say book O might have had the most honorable mentions of any other letter. Where to begin? Least considered, The Office Buddies or The Office Friends. It's the one like behind the scenes of The Office where the actresses who play Pam and Angela like write a book together about what it was like filming on The Office. I did want to read that, but at the same time, I'm not really feeling in the mood for like that style. So I decided no. Up until yesterday, I was 100% convinced that I was going to be reading One True Loves. I'm actually really sad I'm not going to be reading this today, because what happened was I got the ebook on Libby and I was really excited to start reading it today, and I thought maybe we could watch the movie. I've been waiting to watch the movie for when I read the book, and I was like, this is the perfect opportunity, right? I don't know how it happened. I thought I was returning one book on Libby, but I accidentally returned One True Loves. I went to immediately get it back and hit borrow again, but someone else was in line, so I now have to wait to get that book back. Then the next runner-up of what I almost read today is On a Night Like This by Lindsay Kelk. Honestly, this just had a lot of recommendations by other authors. I thought it sounded good. The vibes sounded really fun. And the main reason why I decided not to read it was because I know I'm not the biggest fan of modern romances and I didn't want to read modern romances back to back. That leads me to the book that I did choose, and I'm actually kind of regretting picking it, not because I don't think it's going to be great, but because of the genre. It is spooky season, it is October, and I have never read a horror book. October Roses, a short horror book. And when I say short, I mean it is like 100 pages or less. This is the cover. It's low-key kind of scary. It only has 33 ratings. I'm already actually really scared. Why am I doing this to myself? And I did check to see what the trigger warnings were, and all I saw was that it was like violence. I'm scared. Oh, just kidding. I don't think I want to read this. I just read a review and they bring up a topic apparently that this book surrounds, and I don't want to read about that. So change of plans. We're not reading October Roses. In a lovely turn of events, we are going to be reading On a Night Like This. You know, I'm very relieved because I'm currently home alone and it's nighttime, and that would have been horrifying. So maybe it's for the best. Okay, as for what I know about this book, literally nothing. I just know that other really popular romance authors, modern romance authors, have reviewed this book and said it's amazing. Let's just jump forward to tomorrow because I have so much to say and not much time to say it. I got to about 50% of the way through this book, and when I tell you, nothing could have prepared me. I am so glad that I made the last second switch to read this book because it is like so fun. I feel like it's every young girl's dream, basically. This girl, she's living a really mundane life with honestly a really sucky fiance. She's kind of at this point where she's just like accepting life as it's being thrown at her, and she has a friend encourage her to like, you know, just make something happen in her life, you know, take life by the horns and just go for it. Sure enough, she's like a temp, so basically she never works at one job for a long period of time, and she has an agency that basically has her filling temporary positions here and there, and she does a lot of executive assistant-ing. There's an offer to be a personal assistant, and the agency's like, you are not going to want to turn this down, you're the perfect candidate, just take it. And she's like, okay, I guess I will. Obviously obviously her fiance is really upset because he doesn't like when she travels for work, but she's like, it's just 5 days, you'll be fine. So she leaves and she gets to be the personal assistant for, I'm guessing, this book's universe equivalent to Taylor Swift. And so it's honestly such a fun plot. And she basically has to be Juliet, which is their version of Taylor Swift, but she gets to be Juliet's personal assistant for 5 days for this big event. It's basically a giant charity event. Everyone wants to go. There's only 1,000 seats and it's like 50 grand per ticket. It's this big thing. Anyone who's anyone is there, pretty much. And so she gets to go as like the assistant. Anything after that I feel like is going to be a spoiler, so I will not say anything more. But when I tell you, it is so much fun. And you see this girl who's had a really mundane life and has just kind of let life come to her and not really be happy with it, but just kind of settle. And now all of a sudden she gets thrown into this really glamorous life and she's learning how to just enjoy life. And it's so fun. Like, there's something just so therapeutic about reading that. It's kind of reading like a Cinderella retelling. Like, that is the most I will say, but it kind of has like a Cinderella vibe. And I'm also happy to say that I'm halfway through and there hasn't been any romance. It's just about a girl learning to embrace what life's throwing at her. And I really do like that concept. I do think it's really, really fun. So 100% recommend this book, even though I haven't finished it yet. I'm on my way to a coffee shop with Caitlin, and I plan to read and hopefully finish the book while I'm there. That being said, if I finish that book, I'm just going to jump right into book P while at the coffee shop. So let's talk right now about my honorable mentions and the 2 P books I might be reading today. And yes, you heard me right. I also haven't really decided yet what book P is. And hopefully I'll be picking it up in like an hour. The first runner-up that a lot of people suggested, and when I tell you I've not had any books yet suggested more than once, I had this specific book series recommended I think 3 times. People really wanted me to read the Percy Jackson series. Listen, I also want to read the Percy Jackson series, and someone actually bought me the Percy Jackson series from my bookish Amazon wishlist, which is actually linked down below if you guys want to check it out. But someone bought that and sent that to me, and I am so excited that it's actually going to get its whole vlog because I have never read Percy Jackson before. And so I think it'd be really fun to do like a spoiler reading Percy Jackson for the first time video for you guys. Also just for me to kind of, you know, track this. Now down to the 2 books that it is technically still in between. I would love to, and it is my first choice, but I do not have it from the library yet. I am first in line, which means the second the person who currently has it returns it, it's mine. I have been next in line for a week now, so it is highly possible I'm gonna get this book today, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. I have been dying to read this book. I don't know what's up with me and the modern romances, even though I don't love them recently, but I have been dying to read this book, especially now that it's turning into a movie with 2 really iconic new actors and actresses right now, so I really, really want to read People We Meet on Vacation. But of course, if I do not get People We Meet on Vacation very soon, then I'm just going to be reading Prodigy, which is book 2 in the Legend trilogy. If you watched my last episode, I actually did read Legend in that one, and it was so fun and therapeutic, and I really do miss this trilogy. I do pitch it and talk a lot more about that series in that other episode, so I would highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it yet. I'm going to get packed up and ready to go. And then we can finally finish on a night like this, which I think it's going to be 4 stars, unless something crazy happens that I hate. It's most likely going to be a 4-star book.
Lonely nights talking the pixels. I don't go out, don't intermix with the crowd, and I wonder why I'm sitting all alone, staring at my phone. Or I just want a connection. Is that so?
I am back from the coffee shop and I've actually undergone a bit of a costume change. We'll get there in a second. But I did finish book O. I already forget the title of it, but we're going to add it to the reading chart. This was such a good book before romance actually played a part. Like, the first half of the book, no romance was involved whatsoever. And then everything about the romance just rubbed me the wrong way, especially the fact that I felt like the main girl character totally changed when the guy was involved. So yeah, I will say, however, I did like the ending despite everything that happened in the middle of like the 50 to 90% mark of the book. I did appreciate the ending. However, it's still going to be 3 stars for me. You could technically say 3.5, but I feel like the longer I sit on this book, the more like a 3 it's going to be. Now, as for the costume change, as Caitlin and Izzy and I were driving back, to our homes, we realized it's an amazing day, so we're all gonna go on a walk together. So I am actually waiting for them right now to come pick me up, so I'm gonna get started on Prodigy. Whenever I get back, I'd really like to do another subscribers as second video. I think that'd be really cool, and I'm ready to kickstart this book. After a fun little walk on the trail, I then recorded my entire subscribers to seconds, day 15. Day 15 of me reading as many seconds as I have subscribers on my booktube channel. I currently have 3,362 subscribers, which means today we're reading for 56 minutes and 2 seconds. Then sat down at the computer for a bit to edit it and put it together. Unfortunately, People We Meet on Vacation was not available, so I did go ahead and start with Prodigy, and I'm currently on page 128. Now, here's the tricky thing. I can't actually pitch this book to you, even in a spoiler-free way, because realistically, the entire plot of book 2, almost like the repercussions of the plot twist of book 1. So if I were to tell you quite literally anything about book 2, it would tell you how book 1 ends. So I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. But I will say, if you want to relive your Divergent, Maze Runner, like dystopian book era days from when you were younger, but you also want to read something new, I highly recommend the Legend Trilogy. I don't think I can recommend it enough. However, in case you couldn't tell by my demeanor, I am feeling a little bit sick. I think this is the third ABC Reading Challenge now where I have been sick by the end of filming. Maybe that's a sign that I'm pushing myself a little too hard on the weekends, or maybe it's just fall and all the germies are around everywhere, so could be either. However, it is 8:50 p.m. and I have about 200 pages left of this book. I do want to finish it tonight, even if it means staying up a little bit late, so that's what we're gonna do. As I'm reading this book, some of the plot is coming back to me. I do appreciate, though, that I don't remember at all how this book ends, and honestly, the stuff I'm remembering from this book as I read it is stuff that I thought happened in book 3. So now I'm questioning what happens in book 3 too. It's funny how a certain book series can really hold a special place in our heart, even if years down the road we can't tell you a single thing about it. Like, we don't remember anything. We just remember the feeling that book gave us, and honestly, I think that's one of the most happy and iconic and best parts about being a reader. And with that being said, I have officially finished Prodigy by Marie Lu. I will say one thing. The romance is definitely a lot less mature than I remember, which honestly is kind of a given. I feel like that's the case of most books that you loved when you were younger. When you go back to them and you're like, oh, this couple had issues. I definitely do see that, and that's definitely something I did not notice when I was younger. I've absolutely loved the nostalgia of reading this book, so we're gonna add it to the chart, and I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars in Goodreads. It's really like a 4.75, just because the nostalgia was perfect. It was on point. I still think this is an amazing and underestimated book series, but it just doesn't match up to the absolute goodness of the first one. It's still amazing though, so I'm gonna put it in Goodreads as a 4, but know that it's like a 4.99999 book in my heart. That concludes this episode of the ABC Reading Challenge. You should definitely check out some of my other reading challenges, or of course you should definitely subscribe, and I'll see you in a couple days for the next video.